Hello, and welcome to episode 61 of 10,000 Stitches podcast, a weekly chit-chat all about the joys of small-scale knitting. My name is Andy, and I like making small things, and I have a super adorable start of a small thing to show you guys in a little bit. But anyway, my name is Andy, and if you wanted to find me on the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry as Purlbug, P-U-R-L-B-U-G. You can find my blog at thepurlbug.com, and we have the 10,000 Stitches podcast group on Ravelry. I'm currently recording on Sunday, what day is today? Sunday, March 26th, and this episode will go live on Tuesday, March 28th. If you're looking for links to any patterns or anything like that I mention, if you're watching this in the embedded video, in the blog post, or the Ravelry thread, everything will be linked right below the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, there will be a link in the description box below the video to the blog post. You can go there and find all the relevant links. So yeah, first of all, my hair is a different color. I don't think you guys will actually be able to see it very well, but it's blue, very dark indigo blue. I just dyed it. It's still wet, which is why it looks so dark, because it hasn't dried yet. But yeah, I just dyed it, and I apologize that I know I have some like blue stains and stuff around my hairline, because I'm not very careful about when I dye my hair not getting stuff on my skin, because I'd rather make sure that I get all the roots and stuff, especially at the front, and have some stains that wash out in a couple of days than the other way around. Also, my fingers and my fingernails are a little bit tinged blue, so yeah, we're just gonna roll with it. Also, if you hear any clicking or typing noises in the background, that would be Wesley. He's sitting about 5 feet that way, playing a computer game, and I didn't want to kick him out of the room so I could record. So there's that. I'm also going to be trying to, so we have somewhere that we need to be leaving for in about an hour. So I'm going to record as much as I can now. And then, if maybe I have to do the chit chat or something later and the light changes, that'll be why. But until then, we're going to have a pretty sort of normal episode. We're going to talk about finished objects, works in progress, what's coming up next. Some dyeing stuff to show you guys. I will announce the winner of the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. We'll talk about the knit along, question of the week, and then chit chat. So yeah, lots of stuff to talk about today. But let's start with finished objects. I only have one finished object. So this is one of those times when I'm really glad that I'm recording bi-weekly, because had I recorded last weekend, I would have had like nothing to show you guys, because I just have been so busy just in work and in my personal life and stuff that I just would have nothing. I haven't had any time to knit. So I only have one finished object to show, but yeah, we'll go with it. But anyway, so my finished object is finally the socks that I've been making for Wesley, the mock cable socks. And so as a reminder, this is what they look like. And the yarn is a Regia 4-ply in a gray colorway. And it's hard to see the pattern. I've struggled with this ever since I started these, and it just, for one thing, my camera doesn't want to focus. And for another thing, this pattern is pretty subtle, and it's especially subtle with this yarn because this yarn is so dark. But yeah, the pattern is the mock sheep and pickle mock cable sock pattern, I think. Anyway, I'll put the name down here somewhere, wherever it is. But yeah, and this is a 68 stitch sock and knit on US size 1s. And like I said, they're made for Wesley. They're a shorter sock, so it's got like 20 rows of cuff, and then I think about half a pattern repeat, so about 6 rows, and then the heel, and then just the normal foot for him. So yeah, I'm very excited to have these done. I've been working on these since February, like beginning of February. And if you've been watching since then, you'll know that I started with a different pattern and then frogged it and then restarted. And I don't have any problems with this pattern. Like, it's a fine like stitch pattern. I just really did not enjoy making these socks for some reason. And I don't know why, because it's not as if I don't want to make socks for Wesley. It's just, I don't know, something about, I think it's the yarn. I didn't love this yarn, but something about these just, I did not enjoy knitting them. So I'm glad that they're done and I can move on to other things now. So yeah, that's my only finished object to show you guys. And now Wesley can actually put his socks on, because I finished them up last night and he hasn't tried them on yet because he didn't want to commandeer them before I recorded. So yep, those are my finished object. Let's talk about works in progress. My first work in progress, which I'm not even going to show you guys, is those traveling cable mitts that I talked about and showed you guys last time I recorded. I have made zero progress on them since then. They have, like, I literally haven't touched them in the past 2 weeks. So I figured I wouldn't bother showing those again because there's no progress. I'm hoping to get them finished up soon, or at least get the first one, the thumb done on the first one soon, but yeah. So I'll show you the other 2 works in progress that I have going. One of them is a pair of socks. These are the pair of socks that have sort of become my like work socks. I've been leaving them at my desk at work, and I only brought them home this weekend just so I could show you guys. But I kind of am liking the idea of having a pair of like very simple sort of socks to leave at work and just work on, when I'm teaching and don't need to be helping my students constantly, or when I have a meeting or something. And that way I don't have to worry about like toting my knitting back and forth or forgetting to bring some knitting, and then I have to teach and I have nothing to do with my hands while I'm teaching. Anyway, so these are being made with the yarn. This is the Cloudborn fibers in the Highland Twist that I dyed and showed you guys, I think, last time. It's this very sort of pretty pale purpley color, which is not showing up on camera, but it's sort of a grayish purple. And so I've named these my Cloudy Days socks because they kind of look like clouds when it's gonna rain. But yeah, so these, I'm just doing a basic blueberry waffle sock because blueberry waffle socks are probably one of my favorite socks to knit, because for one thing, it's a nice 4-row repeat, so it's easy to kind of count where I am in it and measure based on the repeats, and it just produces such a nice squishy sock. And this is just such a plump squishy yarn that it's just working super well with this pattern. So as you can see, I have the leg done, I'm through the heel, I'm done with the gusset, and now I'm just plodding my way down the foot. I did 15 rows of 2x2 rib on the top, and then I did 16 pattern repeats on the leg, heel flap, gusset, and I'm not quite sure how many repeats I'll do on the foot. These are being knit 68 stitches on a US size 1, sort of my standard go-to sock size. And yeah, I'm really loving the way this yarn knits up. I think I talked about this when I mentioned this yarn last time, but this is a little bit low on the yardage. So it's 50 gram skeins and it's 178 yards per skein. So it's much more on like the Patton's Croy sort of yardage, but it's also not quite as thick as Patton's Croy. So I have about this much left for the sock that I'm currently working on. So I think I might run short and have to do the toe in like a contrasting color, which is fine. Like if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't have made the leg quite as long as I made it, but I kind of realized like, oh shoot, I should put in a heel, and made the leg a little bit longer than I planned. So yeah, that's that. But I'm really enjoying these. It's really nice to knit with. And yeah, like I said, these are just sort of my live at work socks, and so I'm not entirely sure when they'll be finished. Probably not anytime super soon, because I'm just sort of making a little bit of progress at them as I get time. So that's that. And then my other work in progress is a new thing, well, another new thing, because I guess you guys hadn't seen those, but this is another new thing that you guys haven't seen yet, and it is living in just the cutest bag. I posted a picture of this bag on Instagram, I think, but I got this bag at Joann Fabrics last weekend because I had to go there to pick up the needles for this project. But it's just like a sort of reusable tote bag, and I think it's super cute. It was, I think, like $1.29 or something, and it was right up by the register. And they had other ones. They had like sewing specific ones too. So yeah, super cute. I love it. And it's not really, it's a little oversized for this project, but there's a reason, right? So this project is my very first sweater, and I am making the Flax Light. I talked about this last time. So I'm making the Flax Light, and I am making the 6 to 12 month size because it only requires 400 yards. So I figured, okay, that's a 1 skein project. I can kind of get a feel for this sort of sweater construction and how the pattern's written, and get a feel for my gauge because I'm not big on gauge swatching. So basically this sweater is one big gauge swatch, and I'm gonna see if the measurements when I finish it match the measurements that they give. And if it's, maybe too small, then I know that for myself I need to bump up a size, whatever. Right, so I am knitting this basically otherwise as per pattern. I'm trying to not make any modifications. I have made a few based on like, oh, I'd rather do my increases this way versus that way, whatever. But yeah, otherwise I'm using the exact same needles that the pattern calls for, the exact same stitch count, everything. So this is what it looks like so far. I obviously am through the yoke, separated off the sleeves, and I'm working my way down the body. And I currently have it on a 16-inch US 5. So the pattern calls for a US 2 for like the ribbing at the top and the cuffs and everything, and then a US 5 for the body. And I had bought a bunch of needles last weekend, like I said, at Joann Fabrics. And so I bought these. I basically wanted to do it using my 2 circulars method because that's how I prefer to knit smaller things in the round. So I bought 2 pairs of size 2s and 2 pairs of size 5. And the size 2s worked great for the like ribbing and everything, doing it on 2 circulars, because they're pretty light and thin. And I was using the 2 5s when I was doing sort of the yoke and everything, but they were just so heavy that like having an extra 5 hanging off just was really heavy. So I put it on my 16-inch 5s, and so it's a little squished at the bottom, but it's much more comfortable to just go round and around and around. So yeah, I think I'm maybe about an inch away from starting the ribbing at the bottom. And the body of the sweater is being done in this very bright green yarn that I dyed up over Christmas. This is one that I dyed up using, I think it was like a sour green apple Kool-Aid or something. So that's, and this is what it looks like knit up. It's this really just beautiful tonal, bright, you know, yellow-green color. And then the collar should look familiar. This is my leftover yarn that I had from the speckled space socks that I made. So I'm going to use this for the, oh, come on, focus. For the collar and cuffs and like bottom band. Just because I think it's, you know, coordinates really nicely. And I wanted to do this in very sort of like gender neutral colors because I don't have a recipient planned for this. And so I'm probably just gonna like put it aside once I'm done with it and just hang on to it until someone I know has a baby. But I wanted it to be gender neutral. I know I had said that I was gonna do it in like that pink and green stripes. 1, I didn't want to deal with stripes, I decided. And 2, I wanted to avoid pink because I didn't want it to be too gender specific. So I figured this is nice, soft, sort of baby colors that would be appropriate for a little boy or a little girl. So yeah, that's that. Hopefully I will have this finished by the time I record next in 2 weeks. I don't see why I shouldn't have it finished. And yeah, I've really been enjoying it. It is sort of just endless stockinette now that I'm on the body, and I definitely can see how that will be the case when I do an adult size version. It just is gonna be so much stockinette. But I kind of like it. It's nice for just, you know, sitting and doing some knitting and just keeping my hands busy without having to worry about like, what am I doing? So I guess maybe you could pick up from that, but yeah. The verdict on, you know, whether or not I'm going to make a big one for myself is I think I'm definitely going to be making a big one for myself. And maybe that'll be like a project I take on over the summer and I'll just pick up and knit on it every so often and then I'll have it ready for fall. But I haven't thought too far ahead because I really want to get this one finished up first because who knows, maybe I'll find some part of it that I decide I really hate and don't want to make an adult one. But I have been thinking about things that I would change for the adult size for myself, just based on my personal preferences. But yeah, so those are my finished objects, and I'm gonna go ahead and pause really quick. I don't know if you guys could hear it or not, but my microwave timer went off a little bit ago, and that means that I need to go deal with something out in the kitchen. So I'm gonna pause and go deal with that, and then I will be back and we'll continue onward. Whew, I'm back. And Wesley has actually now left the room. He wanted to apologize because apparently he sneezed while I was recording that last bit, but he's also now in the shower, so if you can hear that in the background, that's what that is. The joys of living in a tiny apartment. Anyway, let's talk about what's coming up next. So I really want to clear my whips before I cast on anything new. I'm probably not going to be able to clear everything before the end of the month, but I would like to kind of go into April with a relatively clean slate. So my main priorities right now are going to be, well, I mean, obviously, you know, my work socks, the blueberry waffle socks, those kind of, whenever they get finished, they get finished. I'm in no hurry with those. But with the flax light and then the mitts, I want to get those done before I cast on anything new to work on at home. So once I get that stuff done, once I get my home projects done and then, you know, my work socks done, the next couple things I'm going to do are going to be 2 more pairs of socks. Because like I said, a sweater for me is maybe going to wait a little while because for one thing, I need to source yarn and figure out what I'm going to do for yarn. But anyway, one of the things I want to make is a pair of socks. The pattern is called Flying North. And this is a pair of socks that I've sort of had on my radar for a really long time. And it's the picture that's on Ravelry with the pattern is this beautiful like light gray color. It's sort of a very delicate, subtle pattern. And so I really just didn't, I had been wanting to make them, but I didn't have the yarn for them. Like I didn't have a yarn that like really felt like that's what it was for until I dyed up my cherry blossom yarn. So as a reminder, this is my cherry blossom yarn, which, okay, speaking of cherry blossoms, apparently yesterday, so March 24th, was peak bloom day. So I guess I'm gonna miss the cherry blossoms this year because it just didn't work out for us to be able to go up there this weekend to see them in DC. And so, and especially because like so many of them were damaged because of the cold snap that we had this past week. I'm just gonna not do it this year and maybe hopefully next year. But anyway, so my cherry blossom yarn, which has a fuzz on it, right, is this very nice sort of subtle baby pink color with the little speckles of a brighter pink. And I think this will be perfect for those socks. So this is gonna be my next pair of socks that I do at work. So once I get done with the blueberry waffles, this will be the next pair of socks I take in to work on at work because it's a pretty, well, from what it looks like, it's a pretty sort of easy to read pattern and not something you have to think too hard about, which is exactly what I wanna have at work. So that's gonna be the next pair of work socks. And then my next pair of home socks is going to be the furrow socks. And someone, oh my gosh, I forget who, and I'm sorry that I forgot who this is, but someone had done them for the current knit along, the Garter Details knit along, and they looked really good, and I've been wanting to do them too. They've been in my queue for a little while, and so I want to do those, and I think I'm going to do them with this skein of Regia Perfect that I have. Also, I really want to get my hands on some of the new Perfect, that is the Arnie and Carlos like Perfect designs, because they look so cute. I keep seeing them on Instagram. Anyway, so this one, the colorway is 07118. There we go. So that's the colorway. I think it's the Oriental colorway, I think is what I've seen on Ravelry, but it's sort of these colors. And I just think that these will really lend themselves well to that furrow pattern, right? Like it's not too patterned, so I think it will look good with these. So yeah, I'm excited, and I love the Perfect yarns. I think they're just a lot of fun. So that's gonna be the next one that I cast on to work on at home. And then, so something else that again is sort of like the Flaxlight, where like this is in the future I wanna do this pattern, but I'm not exactly sure when, is I know Mina Phillip of the Knitting Expat podcast, whose episodes I'm super behind on because I'm just have no time. She just released a shawl pattern that she's been talking about for a while that is sort of meant to use like mini skeins, or you know, like mini skein sets or something like that. And it's this beautiful pattern that like has, you like, I think she did it with like a gradient set of mini skeins, and then it sort of has like a main panel that's in like a contrasting color. And I really want to make that because I've had this set, and this is crinkly and I apologize, but I've had this set from PhD Yarns, who you guys know I love. And it's a gradient kit, but it's non-superwash yarn. So it's fingering weight yarn. It's it's almost 500 yards worth of yarn, and it's 5 20-gram skeins. And so this is what the colors look like. So it's this gray gradient. And I just think it's so pretty, but because it's non-superwash, I haven't known what to do with it, so I've just been hanging on to it. But of course, it is merino, so it's nice and soft. Sorry for the crinkling. So these are, right, it's like a really nice, soft, plump yarn. And so I really wanted to use it for something special, and it's definitely next to Skin Soft. So a shawl seems like the perfect thing to use it for. And I can also then maybe, I might do like the contrasting bit in the undyed version of this yarn, or maybe I'll dye up a different version of this yarn, like a color to do the contrasting part. But yes, I think that's going to be a future project that I want to do because it just seems so perfect to use up this gradient set that I didn't know what to do with. So that's sort of a much more like in the future sort of thing. So yeah. Speaking of gradient sets, why don't I go a little bit out of order and announce the winner for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. So on the last episode I mentioned, or well, I think I mentioned this a couple episodes ago, but I recently hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so thanks guys. And the Ravelry group had around the same time pushed over 400 members, so awesome again. So I was doing a giveaway, and the prize for this giveaway was going to be this gradient set that I had dyed up and shown in the how to dye yarn tutorial. And so as a reminder, this is what it looks like. So this is a sort of saturation gradient set that I had done to show the effects of using different amounts of Kool-Aid on your yarn. And so again, this would be great for some, maybe like that shawl or something else that like utilizes gradient, or a pair of gradient socks. But the winner for that, I had, oh my gosh, how many did I have? 49 minus 3. I had 46 entries, people who entered the giveaway, and the winner was Jenny. And I'm not going to say, your email address. I will shoot you an email as soon as I'm done recording this, so you'll probably see the email before you see this episode. But Jenny, and I had, one person enter as Jenny and one person enter as Jennifer. So it's whoever entered as Jenny and you have a Gmail email address. So you're the winner. Thanks to everyone else who entered, and I would like to do more sort of giveaways like this in the future. So, if you like this sort of format, let me know, because I thought it was terribly fun, and I'm, just terribly thankful to all of you guys for hanging out with me for so long. So that's that. We'll stop being sappy. Congrats, Jenny. Okay, so since we talked about dyeing, let's talk about the dyeing that I've been doing. Also, thank you to everyone who, really watched the dyeing tutorial that I posted. And I know I've seen some people who've been either in that thread on Ravelry or tagging me on Instagram and stuff with skeins that they've attempted to dye, or their first attempts at dyeing yarn based on that tutorial. So that just makes my heart so happy, and it's just so much fun to see that. And so this past week, I've been experimenting a little bit with dyeing yarn in the oven, which is something that I knew was possible. I just hadn't tried it before. And the only difference besides the dyeing that I normally do, where I do it in a pot on the stove, is now you do it in the oven in a pan. But otherwise it's the same concept, right? In terms of what you need to dye, right? You still need color and acid, and then the heat. And the heat is what's provided by the oven instead of on the stove. And sort of the benefit of it, I think, is that you can sort of use less water than you would have to use on the stove, which means that you can get different sorts of designs. And I know some people do this in their microwave. Microwaving is also another option. I can't do it in my microwave because my microwave really is not good. The microwave we have is really awful. It's really underpowered, and it heats really unevenly, so I'd be worried about it burning my yarn. So I've been experimenting with the oven, and the first one that I attempted, I will try and put up on the screen a picture of what it looked like in the pot, in the pan before I put it in the oven. Or maybe I took that picture after I took it out of the oven. But anyway, I was attempting to do this sort of striped thing, and my inspiration was Easter eggs, the way that Easter eggs sometimes get dyed with stripes on them. And the first batch did not come out very well because I had too much water in the pan, and so the dye just ran all over the place, and so I wound up with some muddy sort of brown sections. And so this is what it looks like. This is sort of the finished skein. And so it has a lot of white because I didn't put enough dye in there. And it has some really nice, beautiful, pretty colors here and stuff. And it's not as if it's unusable. It just was not what I was going for. So this is definitely going to be a skein that I keep for myself, and I already have a pattern planned for it. And I'm excited to knit with it because it does have some really fun colors in it. But it wasn't really what I was planning. So I, attempted again. And this time I thought a little bit more about how I was going to lay out my colors to make sure that colors that were next to each other were not going to produce brown, right? I laid out my colors in a better way. And again, I'll try and put a picture on the screen of, I think this picture was before I put it in the oven, of kind of how I laid out my colors. And I used less water overall, and I used more color in the color sections. And so this is the result of that. So you can see it's definitely much more saturated. It's much more vibrant. The colors didn't run into each other quite as badly. And I am just super duper pleased with this one. Again, it was the same sort of inspiration, and I used the same colors in both of these. It was just a matter of technique and how I added the color to the yarn. And both of them, so in case you're curious about the details, I used a 13x9 metal cake pan, which I wouldn't recommend using a metal pan if you have a glass pan, because my metal pan is starting to get etched around the edges from baking something very acidic in it. So I am going to be buying a glass pan, like a Pyrex dish, as soon as I can. So I used a 13x9 pan for 100 grams of yarn, and then I For this one, I used about 2 cups of water after I had already soaked the yarn, right? So the yarn was already wet, and then I added about 2 cups of water, half a cup for each color, to distribute the color. And I baked them at 300 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know what that is in Celsius. 300 degrees Fahrenheit for this one I did for 40 minutes, this one I did for 30 minutes. Both of them came out fine. I'm thinking I'm probably going to keep reducing it until I find that it hasn't absorbed all the color in that time. So my next one I might do like 25 and then 20 until I figure out what the magic number is. But once I sort of get the method refined and figure out a little bit more of what I'm doing, I will record another tutorial on how to do that, like just specifically about the oven part, since that's the only part that changes. But yeah, this one I am super pleased with, and it just makes me happy. Like, it's just very colorful and very bright and makes me very happy. And something to note about this one. So someone had given me the tip, so when I recorded the dyeing tutorial, I mentioned that it's really hard to get like the neon colors with sort of these food safe dyes, right? You can get a lot of colors, but the really bright neons are harder to get. And as you can see on this skein, I definitely did get some of those brighter neons. Like, they're certainly not fluorescent, but they are very bright. And someone had told me like, oh, at Kroger, they have neon food dyes. And I, replied back to them and said, yeah, I know, I've seen those, and I've just never picked them up because I was afraid I'd be disappointed. Not disappointed. So this was dyed with those neon food dyes, except for the orange. The orange was just made with red and yellow mixed together. But I did pick up a pack of the neon food dyes, and I don't know if these are exclusive to Kroger, because that's where I got them. I checked at Target yesterday, and Target did not have neon food dyes, but other grocery stores might, so I'm not sure. I apologize if they're only available at Kroger. But they basically are just right next to the regular food dyes, and it's a pink, like a lime green, a bright blue, and then I think a purple, like a very bright purple, if I remember correctly, are like the 4 colors that come with it. So yeah, if you want really bright colors, that's definitely an option, and they do work. They do produce very bright, vibrant colors. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for dyeing over the past week or so. And let's see, we did the giveaway winner. So let's talk about our knit along. So we are about halfway done. Well, by the time you guys see this, we're about halfway done. We have lots of finished objects in the finished object thread. I didn't get a chance to count, but we have lots of them, and I've been really impressed with like sort of the scope of projects that we've gotten. And I think there's a little baby flax sweater, there's a couple of barley hats, there's lots of socks, a couple of shawls. Also, whoever did the 9 3/4 or Love Potion 9 3/4 shawl, I forget who it was, but I saw it in the finished objects thread, and oh my gosh, that shawl is really great. I love it. But yeah, lots of finished objects. I'm super excited about that, and I do not have a prize yet, but I will for sure have it by the next time I record, which will be April 9th. So episode 62, be on the lookout for what the prize is going to be for that one. But yeah, so let's move on to question of the week, and then I will probably wrap this up, and then I think I will record the chatter segment later. But anyway, my question of the week is not knitting related, but it is about holidays. So it's springtime. I know that we are coming up on Easter. I forget exactly when Easter is, but I know we're coming up on it. About the next time I record, I think, is right around Easter time. And so my question is, do you celebrate Easter? If so, what do you do to celebrate? Or I know Passover is around the same time for people who are Jewish. So how do you celebrate Passover? I know practically nothing about it. And I don't know if there's other holidays. Like, I am really not up on like when Muslim holidays are, but if there's one in the spring, what do you do for that one? I'm trying to think of what we did for Easter. I mean, I grew up Catholic, so we always, would go to church for Easter, and we would typically do, Stations of the Cross on Good Friday, and then we would go to church for Easter as well. But, I don't honestly remember us doing a lot else for Easter. I know we probably had like some special meal, but I don't remember it being this like big event. And we certainly did not do, I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this in a way that's good if you have kids in the room. We did not ever visit the Easter Bunny, if you know what I'm saying. So until I was older, like until I was maybe a teenager was when we kind of did Easter baskets, sort of. But we didn't really do that a lot either. maybe we were just really boring. But I don't remember doing a lot for Easter. I remember it was really centered around like the religious part of the holiday and, you know, going to church and all of that. But otherwise, I don't remember much of it. But yeah, what do you do? Do you make a big thing about Easter? Do you do Easter baskets, Easter egg hunts? Like, what do you do? Yeah, I'm very curious because it's a holiday that I don't have a lot of attachment to, especially now that I'm a little bit older and I don't really go to church or anything anymore. It's kind of like, it's a spring holiday, but you know, who knows? Maybe Wesley and I will go out to brunch or something for Easter, but we'll see. But anyway, how do you celebrate it? Let me know. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for it's for sure it for the knitting stuff. So if that's all you're here for, thank you very much for hanging out with me and watching. Otherwise, I am going to probably be back a little bit later to do the chit chat stuff. So I apologize if the light changes dramatically, or if I look very different when we get back. But yeah, I will be back later to do the chit chat, and I'll see you then. Okay, so it is now many hours later. You can see I took out my contacts, put on my glasses. We just got back from the thing that we were going to do, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but let's do chit chat. So yeah, first of all, I want to thank everyone who watched the vlog that I put up last week. I got some really great feedback on it, and something that was asked multiple times was, how did the yogurt turn out, right? Because the thing that I was doing most of the day in that vlog was making yogurt, and it turned out very tasty. So the next morning, which would have been last Sunday morning, I took the yogurt out and strained it, and yeah, came out pretty good. I just finished the last of it yesterday, so I made a second batch today, overnight, last night, I made a second batch, and that again turned out very good. So I think really the lesson here, like the difference between this yogurt that I was making and the previous times I tried, was the quality of the starter that I was using, because before I just used like Yoplait yogurt, whereas this time I was using Stonyfield Farms, which is like an organic fancy brand. So I definitely think the quality of the starter really made a difference, because everything else I did the same. And this time I did what I had said in that video, in that I was going to get it started on the stove. So I heated up the milk on the stove and then let it cool down in the pot, and then put it into the crock pot to culture overnight. And that worked just fine. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep bothering with like the straining business, because kind of no matter what, it's a mess. Like I had read somewhere that a better thing to use than like cheesecloth is to use coffee filters, because they are made for like more finely straining things, which is true. Like I lost, none of the solid bits of the yogurt, but it's messy and just kind of gross. And even if I use cheesecloth, like it's still going to be kind of messy and gross. So I may just, accept that my yogurt will be a little bit more liquidy and go on with my life. Today what I did was I wound up blending up some frozen strawberries as well and mixed those in with the yogurt, and so now I have strawberry yogurt, which is very tasty, and I had some of it for lunch. So yeah, worked out really well. I would like link to a recipe, but there really isn't a recipe that you use. Like you just heat up your milk to 185-ish degrees, let it cool back down to somewhere between 110 and 115. All these temperatures are in Fahrenheit. So let it cool back down to between 110 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I usually shoot for about 115, and then you mix in, and during this time you bring your starter up to room temperature, and like I just use a little container, just like maybe a quarter of a cup. You bring that up to room temperature, then you gently mix that in with a little bit of your warm milk once the milk has cooled and the starter's warmed up, and then you very gently mix that into the rest of your milk. And then you just let it sit. You wrap it up and keep it so that it will keep a fairly steady temperature, and you just leave it for like 10 hours. And that's it. That's the process of making yogurt. So yeah, that's that, and I'm very excited about that. And it's definitely a decent amount cheaper to do it this way, especially if I don't bother to strain it. It's definitely a decent amount cheaper to do it this way, especially like using organic milk and stuff. So yeah, pretty pleased with that. And yeah, otherwise what I've been up to for the past 2 weeks is just being crazy busy at work. It's, midterms, or a little bit past midterms. And it's just like that time of year when just things are busy. And I've taken on a couple of additional projects at work that I might talk about, once they are really going. Right now, it's sort of just in the phase where I said I would do them. So yeah, I will talk about those later, but it definitely means my life is getting a little bit busier. And I know I've talked before about the hiring process, or the hiring committee that I'm on. That has been moving slowly, but we are moving forward with it. We just on Friday, I think, had a meeting to decide who we were going to bring in for like in-person interviews. So so we'll see kind of when those, I'm not exactly sure when those are going to be scheduled for, but I will definitely update you guys when that happens. But yeah, I've just been really busy and haven't had a whole lot of time for anything. Like I said, I haven't had a ton of time for knitting. I haven't had a ton of time for just anything sort of hobby-wise. I have been trying to get back to the gym, which I was doing good with last week, so hopefully I can keep that up this week. And that is definitely something where, like, I feel better when I do it. Not like in a, endorphin rush kind of way, because I've never been one of those people, but like in a doing something for myself, purely for my health kind of way. That's a good feeling. So I've been doing that. And I read a book, I think probably in the time between when I recorded last, which was really good. I should have done a goals recap. Whatever. I'll do one maybe the next time I record. But anyway, I did read a new book, and it was called Gut, and I forget who the author is, but I will put it down here somewhere. I'll put the full name and the author's name. But it was a nonfiction book all about the digestive system. And it was really, really interesting, especially, for someone like me who's very interested in sort of the human body and how it works. It was really interesting, and it was written in a way that's approachable for people who know a lot of science or people who don't know a lot of science. So I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is curious about the digestive system, or, has a general curiosity about the human body. And, there were some interesting just like factoid sort of takeaways from it, and also some interesting takeaways in terms of like, simple things you can just keep in mind for the sake of your general health. So that was very interesting, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who is interested in that sort of a topic. But yeah, so let's talk about what we were just doing. So it is now theme park season. And I know I had talked about this, last year when we were going to theme parks. Theme parks have opened up this weekend. So we went to King's Dominion which is the local one for us here in Richmond. We went there on Friday night. They had like a pass holder preview night, and we are season pass holders. So that was really fun because the park was pretty dead, pretty empty. And so, it meant that we got to ride all of our favorite rides, and there were like no lines for anything. And the weather was really great. It had been so warm here. I think probably the last time I recorded, I forget if it had gotten cold by then or if it was really nice. But then it got cold again for about a week or so, like really cold. But yeah, it warmed up enough Friday night for it to be a fun night to be outside all night. And then we went back today to meet some of our friends there and hang out with them there. And again, it wasn't as busy as I thought it was going to be, so that was really fun. But I did record a vlog of our time there on Friday, so you guys could kind of, see what it's like. So I will probably post that on Thursday, maybe. It's edited and ready to go. I haven't uploaded it yet, but it's ready to go. I just want to, stagger it a little bit. But I thought I would go ahead and post that in case anyone cares. But yeah, it was a really fun time, and I really enjoyed going, and I'm really glad that we went back up there today, although I am now just completely exhausted. Riding roller coasters and stuff is just really tiring, and I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I have like some neck problems from a car accident I was in, and so like roller coasters are probably not the best thing for that, but I love them anyway. But And like typically if we're going only on like once a week, it's long enough for me to kind of recover from each trip. But going twice in 72 hours or so, definitely I can feel it, and I can feel that I'm going to be very sore tomorrow. But glad we went up, and it was a little bit cooler today, but it was also really good weather today. So yeah, but I think that's probably it like I said, I'm really tired now, so I'm fighting the urge to take a nap. It's about 4:30 here now, so I'm like fighting the urge to take a nap because I know, well, because I'm not a very good napper, and I know that if I nap, I'll just wake up even more cranky and gross feeling. So I'm probably gonna try and keep myself busy, make some dinner and do that kind of stuff, and then go to bed early. But yeah, my brain is just not having it right now, so I guess we'll keep the chit chat short, and it'll kind of be supplemented with that vlog that I'll put up of our time at King's Dominion on Friday. But yeah, I guess that's gonna be it for me today. Sorry if this chit chat section wasn't super well pulled together. I had notes and everything, but yeah, I'm tired. So that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time I record. So yeah. Bye.